Hello, everyone, and welcome to another great episode of the Lead Different podcast. Today, we are excited to bring to you Dr. Yasmine Saad and talk about how to decode your inner world. Your mind has a message, and you've got to learn to hear it. And she's an expert at that. Let me tell you guys a little bit about our guest today. Dr. Yasmine Saad is an award-winning psychologist, an international TEDx speaker, a two-time international best-selling author, and the founder of Miss Park Psychological Services in New York City. She is known by her clients as the psychologist. She created the inner message approach, a transformative method that helps people decode their thoughts and emotions to break negative patterns and unlock their potential. She is recognized by Forbes, USA Today, and more than 200 major media outlets. She is celebrated as a visionary, reshaping how we understand the human mind by blending ancient wisdom with groundbreaking therapeutic techniques. She is the leader of a top-tier team of multicultural psychologists. She provides holistic, tailored care to individuals, couples, and families, earning her center a place on the 2024 Inc. 5000 list. She's, as I said, a sought-after international speaker who is fluent in English, French, and Spanish, and she has shared the stage with global thought leaders like Deepak Chopra, Les Brown, and Dr. Shefal. Her mission is clear: to help people create inner peace, access their inner wisdom, and transform their lives from the inside out. That is a mouthful, but Dr. Saad, Dr. Yasmine Saad is an amazing individual, one of my favorite humans, and I'm so glad to have you here on the podcast. Welcome to the show, Dr. Saad.
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited, and what an introduction. It's nice to hear it back. It's wonderful.
It's all good news, right? You've done so much, and you continue to do so much, Dr. Yasmine. We've been connected for years and years, and I've had you on my Why Not Wednesday podcast. And when I broke out and began Why Not Leadership, I reached out, and you were kind enough to be on the Lead Different podcast. And we're going to have you back. One of the things I love about what you do, your social media team is so good about sharing our clips. And so every once in a while, I see a clip of you talking about something we talked about on our podcast. And it reminds me, what a beautiful soul, what a beautiful person we have in Dr. Yasmine. And I said to myself, reach out, let's talk to her again, because since we last spoke, you have blown up. As I mentioned in the introduction, you shared the stage with Les Brown, Deepak Chopra. Let's start with that, because I think that'll be a fun way to start the conversation. What was it like to share the stage with such notable names? Or maybe I should ask, what was it like for them to share the stage with you? But since they're not here, I'll ask your perspective.
It was wonderful. I mean, I believe that whatever's reflected to you in your reality is meant to show you something about you. So for me, when I see that, I see it as, a conviction that my message is meant to be shared more and more and more. So I feel life gives you sign. And for me, that was one of the signs that I'm like, life is kind of telling me, your message deserves to be out there at the same level as the one from Deepak Chopra or Les Brown. So that's how I took it, as a reinforcement and consolidation of the power of the message I have to offer.
And that is such a good message to have. All of us have something within us that we want to share, or that we feel that we need to share. Not all of us are as successful as you are, is really consolidating it and putting it into a package that everyone wants to hear. I mean, that probably not a week goes by that you're not on some major news channel sharing your message. What has been the key to just really coming up with that concise message that people want to hear for you?
For me, I mean, I always say it's to tap into my own talents. And I always say that to people: you have to know who you are and what's so special about you. So my talent is I can make very complex idea very simple. I use metaphor, I make them very concrete and very practical, so it can reach a big audience. And I've been teaching for 17 years, so I feel it's like, preparation, meet the right timing, and using who you are. I also think, it happens that I present well. I was born with a certain face, certain way of dressing up. So everything really came together. My, nonverbal behavior, my expression, my ability to teach, my ability to concise thing. And so that for me has been key. And I've been seeing it again and again. And I'll give you an example. The first time I appeared on TV, like everybody else, I sent it to my whole family.
Right.
And my cousin were like, wow, you're natural at this. You should consider it. And, I studied traditional Chinese medicine under Grandmaster Nan Lu I've been studying for 13 years. And here's the idea that you're born with everything you have for your future. And when my family told me that, I said, oh, you know what? It's true. Like, I'm photogenic on TV and camera. I speak well. It comes naturally to me. What if that was a platform for me? And
Right.
it opened so many doors. So it's just about seeing the signs and understanding who you are. That's how I think of it.
Oh, that is really good. One of the things that, you mentioned a couple of things that I want to dig into. You mentioned, you look a certain way, you sound a certain way, but guess what? There are other people that look a certain way. It's not necessarily just that you're very photogenic and you show up well on camera. You're actually able to take advantage of that, right? Because again, I think what you're saying is you've got the gifts, let's go use them, and you've developed them, right? I am sure that first TV interview, when you look at it now compared to how you present today, you're probably looking at yourself like, oh my gosh, what was I doing? Although you are a natural, there are always ways that you can improve. But I think that the key is you took advantage of that gift. So you're very presentable. You have a good message, and you have a great way of consolidating the message and making it easy for people to understand. So, Dr. Yasmine, I'm gonna go into your YOS because that's how we met, right?
Yes.
I was at the Y Institute and everybody knows this. Everybody knows I spent 4 years at the Y Institute helping Gary Sanchez and the Y Discovery get known around the world. We helped 10x the number of people using that process around the world. And you were one of the people that I had the opportunity to meet and take through that process. And as I listened to you and as I listened to your story, your YOS just comes through. So Dr. Yasmine's Y is to make sense. She is a problem solver. She likes to make sense of things. She likes to solve problems. Give her lots of information and data, and she makes sense of it and makes it easier to understand for others. Her how is to find a better way. So how she makes sense of things is by constantly looking for better ways to do them and then sharing them with others, which she does through her TEDx talks and her media appearances. And the last part of her YOS is contribute. She wants to make a difference and share what she learns with others. And she does that once again by sharing stages and being so generous and coming on podcasts. How many podcasts do you do in a year, Dr. Yasmine?
Oh, quite a few. I have, at least once a week, and there's 52 weeks. So at least 52 a year, at least. Sometimes it's several a week. So you can maybe up from 52 to 152, depending.
You know what I'll say? And most people would say, well, she's got to take time off. I am a witness to the fact that you actually did a podcast with me when you were on vacation. So it was time off. I think you were in France at the time, and we logged on and were able to conduct an episode. So I do know that at minimum you're doing at least 52 podcast episodes a year. What when I talk to you about your YOS, I know you talk about it and you share it on your social media. Talk to us a little bit about that. As a psychologist, it always gives us great credibility when somebody with your credentials says, that is spot on, that is me. The assessment got me right. Tell us about the initial thoughts, because then I want to get into your mission and what you're doing today.
Yes. So for me, the YOS basically really gave me words to put on what I do, who I am. And I thought it was so on point. So I always work to make things better. I always learn a shortcut. That's where my inner message approach comes in, right? So for me, I always help psychologists find a better way, a faster way to help their patient. When I build my group practice, the goal was to help people fast with long-lasting results. Everybody was like, but you won't have patience. I said, no, there will be plenty of patience. So I'm known to figuring things out within 10 minutes. So making things better, making sense, having an impact is all that I do all the time, everywhere. And what I love about this is that it's so natural to me. I don't feel like I'm working. So when you say she should take vacation, I love doing this. Like, it's what fuels me. It is my vacation. It's my breath of fresh air. Whenever I can help someone find an easier way to their life, a faster way, understanding, shortcuts, improving their life, I am so happy. So the why, OS is fantastic. It really gives you a bit your why, your what, and your how. And I highly recommend it. Highly recommend it. It's very well done.
So before I want to go on, I want to talk about your inner message approach, because you talk a lot about that, and it's it really resonates. You mentioned it gives you words, right? The YOS gives you the words to say who you are. I'm actually working with a client right now, helping them beef up their resume, and really using their YOS in the language that they use to describe themselves. Tell us about the inner message approach. Tell us what does that mean? Because that is your thing, and I want people to learn about it. And how are you spreading the message about the inner message approach?
Yes. So, we all think we have thoughts and emotions and that they should be ignored, that they're detrimental to us. Like, all of us believe like our mind is the enemy. I constantly have negative thoughts, or I get angry. I shouldn't get angry. Like, we all beat on ourselves for the thoughts and the emotion we have. And in the world of psychology, we've been told, well, those thoughts are random or they're cognitive distortion. You should just ignore them or correct them. And with the world of positive psychology, everybody's like, replace them with positive. The more you think positive, the more there's positive in your life. Well, the issue with all those approaches is when you do that, you create an enemy within, because it starts with the premise that the mind is wrong, that the emotion are wrong, and that you have to fight. So therefore, you become in a fighting relationship with who you are. And very early on, I understood that thoughts and emotions are actually messengers. And I'll give you an example. The way it came to me was, it first started with one day I thought of a friend of mine. And I asked her, hey, I'm thinking of you. What's going on? And she said, oh, really? You think of me today? I said, yeah, you popped into my mind. And she's like, what time? I was like, I just want to know what time. And I tell her 1 p.m. And she's like, today's my birthday, and I was born at 1 p.m. And I was like, so then it made me think, wow, maybe my thoughts are not random. And you all know how you have this thought of something, and then you open your email and suddenly it's in your email. And I'm like, And then, I started having some emotions about psychology in my practice. Like, I was thinking about one of them and I was feeling sad. And then I talked to her and she was having, something sad happening in her life. And I'm like, what? So maybe our emotion, our thought are not as random as we think they are. And I started, developing this idea that thoughts and emotion are actually messenger that convey information about your environment and about who you are. So I lead a team of 40 psychologists in your city, and we have treated more than 10,000 people. And so I started looking at that idea and I realized, wow, everybody's thoughts actually is a messenger and carries your present state, your desired future, the obstacle along the way, and how to move faster forward. And so I developed the inner message approach, which is that with simple thoughts, you have access to so much information about you. Information that before people felt like you can only access through free association of looking at your childhood or your past. And I'm showing not at all. You have all this information within one thought. And so this is where I built my inner message approach. I explain it very well on my TEDx. So if you want, go see decodetedx.com, where I show you the steps. And we can do it together. We can decode, we can talk more, but that's the basis of the inner message approach, that every thought, every emotion is a message from you to you, carrying information of what you need to rebalance, what's your present
Right.
state, your desired future. So if you decode those emotions, imagine the information, and
Mhm.
then you change your relationship to yourself. Your mind is no longer the enemy. It's actually trying to help you constantly through negative thoughts, because that's how you pay attention. You only pay attention to the negative because the positive is acquired, but the negative you want to fix.
Right. Oh, that's so good because I often talk about when we're talking about motivation, right? It's easy to hear everybody telling you, "Oh, that's a silly idea. That'll never work," right? Yasmine, you can't hire 40, you can't manage 40 psychologists. That's a lot of people to manage, 20,000 patients. How are you going to do that? That's crazy. You can hear that, or you can look at it and say, okay, what's the message? But the most important thing is, what are you going to say to yourself after you hear that, right? Because, and you tell us, I think we talk to ourselves all day long. So that inner voice is so important, and to say the right things. But I like what you said with regards to we listen to the negative thoughts because it gives us something to fix, right? But how do we is there a process to convert those into the positive thoughts that we need to have so that we can take action? Because yes, I might tell myself, Dan, you're not as good looking as Yasmine. How are you going to have a podcast and put your face out there? How do we convert that? Well, but you are better looking than the average guy. Or what is it that I need to tell myself so that I can move forward faster, as we talked about, and do even better?
Okay, I'll take this thought that you offered, although I'm not sure it's everybody's thought. But the idea, it all starts like that thought you have, show us your present state. So if you think, I'm not as good looking as Yasmine to have a podcast, what is the thought calling our attention to? It's calling our attention to your ability to have a podcast and what you think is needed. So therefore, you're focusing on appearance. So that means it shows us a little bit about your blueprint, that your blueprint is to have a podcast. I need to present well. I need to look good. And I don't look that good. So how is that going to go? So it shows us your desire for a better look, a better presentation. It shows you your taste of what looks good, doesn't look good.
Right.
And it also shows us where you tilt, that you tilted towards that, right? So it's not the best example because most people don't really think that way, but I want to show people how the first part is that thought carries
Right.
so much information about you. So just with thinking, what is the thought calling my attention to? It shows you what is the unmet desire here. It shows you what I'm thinking about the way to get to my unmet desire. And there you see the obstacle, which is that you're tilting your balance more towards appearance rather than content, rather than wisdom, rather than who you are. So therefore, if you were to do my inner message approach, I would tell you, okay, it sounds like you're someone who's interested in presenting well, appearing well. And so what would it take us to get you to a place where you feel you present well? And second, it sounds like you're focusing a lot on that. Can we regain touch with your wisdom, with who you are? Can we ground you in that? Because once you have that, the other will be. And so once you do that in 2 seconds, then suddenly you feel much better with the podcast and you can go actually do the podcast. You do not need a positive thought. You understand, like, oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I actually want to present well. And you're right, I'm focusing more on that than the wisdom I have. So let me do that. And then you just start a podcast with ease because you have fixed the inner message. There was an inner message and it was fixed. So you do not need positive thoughts. It's just that the negative dissolve and the information and the wisdom rise, and you act on it and everything becomes easy.
You can see how Dr. Yasmine is so successful because we also do that in sales, right? We good salespeople ask questions. So it's not okay. So I think I'm not good looking enough. let's figure out where that's coming from, and what do you need to overcome that what's the need, right? And you're looking at the deeper thoughts. It also reminds me of what you said in the beginning. I just finished reading a book by Father Gregory Boyle. He's a Jesuit priest in Los Angeles, and he works with gang members. His book is called Tattoos on the Heart. But one of the things that he constantly tells, these are young men who are coming out of, they've been in prison since they were 13 years old, 10 years in prison. So all they've known is incarcerated life. And now they're getting their first job. They've got tattoos, and they've got to get rid of, we've got to do some appearance work just so they can at least get an interview, because they've got their name tattooed across their neck, and, they can't get a job that way, or their gang name or horns, or, just terrible things. But he works with them and helps them see themselves, as you said earlier. You will have everything you need. And when we get into the spiritual side of it, he says, God made you exactly the way you are, and you have everything you need to do what you need to do, what he put you on this earth to do. So there's a little bit of that message in what you do. Where does that come from for you?
It comes from the idea of energy, that you're an energy being. And so do you ever wonder, for example, the way you speak, the energy in the tone of your voice, your eyes, the way you look. So everything is based on energy. And energy has a consciousness and a purpose. So it's based on quantum physics at the end of the day. That everything that you have, your eyes, your mouth, your tone of voice, your gesturing, it's all a product of your energy frequency, of frequency waves you have. And those waves are meant for a purpose or something. So everything within us has a purpose. And therefore, why do you get your dad's eyes? Why do you get your mom's nose? Do you ever wonder how come? And what is it about that? We know from morphopsychology that certain features carry certain traits. So this is where everything gets together, that, maybe that trait was needed for your path and your future, and it carries a purpose. So for example, if I look at me, very often when I'm on stage, people tell me, I could listen to you forever. You have such a melodious tone of voice. And since I was a kid, people will come to me for help. And that's how I decided to become a psychologist. And I was born this way. It's not something I created. So it's almost like you're born with what you need, and what you need serves your future. And so it's not something I intend, it's not something I do, it's something that out of the frequency of my voice, that's what happens. And so this idea that you have everything, the color of your hair means something, your eyes, everything, the way you speak, the intonation, they're all meant for a purpose. And I recently did a podcast with someone who noticed the difference in my energy and her energy. And her energy was fast, go, 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 go. And she said, just listening to you, I feel calmer. But is that a sign that I should calm down? And I said, no. Your pace is meant for your purpose. So maybe your purpose is to achieve things at a faster pace in a certain way. But you have to know a bit the inconvenience of that pace, which is you might have a tendency to do too much. You might have a tendency to a bit push your body too far. And so it's about being aware. The same way as me, I might have a tendency to take it easy and mellow, so maybe I have to push myself. So I know people always think I'm so busy, but I don't feel that busy, because everything is at a slow pace for me. So that's a bit of that. So that idea that you have everything within you that you need is based actually on quantum physics, on energy, and on the idea that you're made out of cells that have a particular purpose, and they all come together for your own big purpose. So just trust what you were given and try to read it and see it through what people tell you. Like, because that's where it goes back to my inner message approach. If somebody tells you you're pretty and you believe you're pretty, right? It's aligned with who you are, it goes. But when somebody tells you you're ugly and you feel pretty, it doesn't enter. What will enter is, why are they telling me this? Why is this happening? So the image that people tell you about you, you will know which one is an accurate image of yourself and which one is not. And so the negative enters only because it resonates with you. Like if you tell me I'm ugly and I feel pretty, it doesn't. But if I happen to feel ugly, it will enter.
Right.
So this is where you can, understand what you think of yourself through also interaction with others.
I love that. I love hearing this perspective, Dr. Yasmine, because as I said, the perspective that I brought was from Father Gregory Boyle, who brings a spiritual and God sense to it. But I think it's the same message, right? It at a cellular level, whether it's through faith or quantum physics or positivity or destiny, whatever it is. The point is, you have what you need. You are built a certain way for a certain purpose, and finding that purpose and living it. I think that's the other thing, you mentioned about your voice, and it is true. When I listen to you, I just feel calm, and I'm one of those fast-paced people, go faster, do this, do that. But you have a calming effect on people. You have a calming effect on the room, and I see it when you do your TEDx talks or when you're on a television show. Because sometimes you get asked some tough questions, and you're like, well, let me tell you what I think. And all of a sudden you're listening to the inner thoughts of Dr. Yasmine. So I think that's a beautiful approach. So thank you for sharing that. You are also a leader, Dr. Yasmine, and this is an important one. When I was in the military, I had to at one point lead doctors, and doctors it's like herding cats. So having 40 psychologists in a big practice, what's a leadership challenge that you've had that you've overcome, and let's talk about that, because I bet you do it different than everybody else. You have a very successful practice. You treat lots of patients, and you're not in all the weeds. I know that you've got a practice manager and you run that place pretty hands off, I bet. But tell us, what are some of the secrets to leading a large practice like that, and travel internationally and speak all the time and be on podcasts at least once a week?
Well, the secret is, I believe that everything that you have in your life is a byproduct of who you are, right? So what does it mean? That means wherever you have weaknesses, it will show up in your business. Wherever you have strength, it will show up in your business. So I always look at the outside reality of what's happening as a reflection of something that either I have to upgrade or something that I really have hands down that is really strong about. So for example, if I have a psychologist come to me and they have an issue with a process in the practice, I really listen with, what are they to bring me that will upgrade me right now? So it's all about a journey. It's all about my own journey, my own cultivation journey. And when you see your organization as that, you really realize that your organization is as strong as your capacity to evolve. Like, how much do you hold love and peace? How much are you able to process conflict? How much are you able to resolve things in a way that's not confrontational? Or how much can you assert yourself? Where are you? The more capacity, the more internal freedom you have with being assertive, with being loving, with being everything that you need to be in the world, the more you practice, your organization will be successful. So I always see it as a reflection. So for me, it's all about my own evolution. So the biggest challenge, I always say, my group practice was the biggest thing to help me grow. And I'm a psychologist. I first started, I did years of analysis, years of therapy, then years of Qigong that I still do. But always this group practice is people enter your word,
Hmm.
system, ways, and then you realize who you are. You realize, oh, I love intuitive. I don't like so much disorganized, but company need that. So you need to change your relationship with organization if that's the piece, or vice versa. You love organization and structure when you have to operate a bit more intuitively. So it's
Right.
all about changing your relationship to a certain value, certain system. It's becoming flexible, expanding, and really being an open container so that you are free to operate in the world whichever way you want, lovingly, assertively, in all shape or form. And when you have that, then it runs smoothly.
There's a couple of things you said there that are really important, and that's something that I've recognized recently is when there's a problem, and like you said, somebody comes to you with a problem or a change that they want to implement. You got to look at it. Okay, well, how am I contributing to that, right? And how can I? What is it that I can do? And then is it a zone of genius? I call it zone of genius thing for me. So for you, is it an opportunity to make sense of it, find a better way, or contribute? And if it is, then I'll take it. But if it's not, I need to give it to someone else who probably can deal better with it. And those are the dark sides of our YOS, right? As a make sense person. So this is a challenge that I often see with leaders and CEOs who have the why of make sense is you are so good at solving problems that everybody brings their problems. So you said even when you were young, everybody would bring their problems to you because Yasmine was so good at solving problems, right? But one of the challenges that we see, especially in a large organization, and when we're talking 40 psychologists plus support staff. So how many total employees are in Madison Park?
Oh, we have quite a few. I don't know at this point, but yeah, we have the 3 admins and 40 something.
Yeah, so you've got quite a few people supporting there. So it's a big ecosystem. But one of the things we find in leaders with the why of makes sense is that nobody wants to solve problems without running it by the boss because she's the best at solving problems. So how have you been able to delegate some of that problem solving so that they don't always come to you? There has to, and you're always going to have the best solution, and that happens constantly. So you've got to find some other problem solvers within the group. How have you been able to overcome that if you face that?
Yes. Oh, I think everybody faces it because you have your own genius, areas of genius, as you say. And so, what are you going to do? But you also want freedom, and you don't. So, what I've been very successful at is, and we're going to go back to the original thing we were talking about, is I see everybody like a diamond. Everybody's a diamond. So I'm looking, what is your diamond and
Yeah.
how can I refine and polish your diamond? So I always look, okay, what are you good at? Are you into strategy implementation? Are you a visionary? Who are you? And I'm going to give you things where you will shine and you will excel.
Mm.
So you might not be me, but you will hone your diamond, and I'm going to help you hone it to a point where I feel satisfied with it, that it's,
Mhm.
I see a potential and I'm going to help you reach that potential. And what happens there in my group practice is people love it because whether you come as an intern or as very senior, you have a voice and I see gifts in you and I see places you can go. And so you are right away into being responsible and independent and doing things because what I want people to fly. I want people to be really full of happiness and potential and growing. And for that, they need opportunities.
Mm.
So I'm totally okay with the process rather than the end result. But I also want the end result. So I'm not going to give a visionary create tasks, or I'm not like, so it's about really seeing the person and seeing the gift in what they do. The other is about teaching everybody on the team to see the gift, because
Mhm.
sometimes you have the visionary who's like, feels like, oh, this person is too concrete. I'm like, yeah, but
Right.
they're good at implementing. That's their, like, You're the visionary, they're implementers. That's really important. We need all of that. And so it's about creating respect from different ways of operating in the world and understand that we all need each other.
Yeah. And surrounding yourself with the right people. Because as a make sense better way person with a big contribute heart, you're the idea, you're the innovator. So you are the visionary, but you have to have some of those implementers in the group that will take those ideas and make them concrete and create the systems and processes so that the practice can run. That's really good. I love your thought of thinking of everyone as a diamond. And sometimes they come to us as a lump of coal, right?
Yes, exactly. But for me, in the reality, I'm very selective who comes in the practice. Every year, I have 100 people out applying to work with me. I take 2, 3. So I'm very selective because um, for the group practice, I cannot help everyone, but in other places, I help everyone. So it's about,
Right.
if you're going to enter my world and I'm going to entrust you with patients, and you already have to meet a certain threshold, and then I'm going to take you to another level. So that's why I said, the psychologists in my practice are top expert, and then they were further trained. So it's a different level, but I can only do that and provide that by being selective in some way.
Oh, this is great, because that's a subject that I'm sure leaders face all the time. Most medical practices of any kind, whether it's a chiropractic or psychological or family practice, would love to see a turnover rate of 0, where you're getting hundreds of applications, but you only have room for a couple. That's a challenge for a lot of leaders, and depending on the industry, also, right? Uh, but what's a secret to having such low turnover? And I'm hearing it already in some of the answers, but there's another young Dr. Yasmine, maybe she's 10 years out of school and is starting her first practice and is going to hire a bunch of psychologists. What do you say to that person before they go into it so they can have the kind of success you have in terms of being able to retain talent?
I think you have to decide. Like, it goes back to, we talked about how every cell in your body has a purpose, and it creates the big purpose of who you are. I believe companies, like, what you create has a mission and purpose. So it's about really hiring the people who are aligned with that mission and purpose. So, for example, my group practice is very well known to create a lot of inner development, a lot of self-growth. So I'm only going to hire people who are hungry for getting better and better and better. The better way, they have to be on board with a better way. If they want to be stagnant, we're not going to be the best environment, because I'm looking for that. But also knowing that if I'm looking for that, I have to give that. So I have to give them a better way of practicing, more opportunities, becoming director of track, supervising, new opportunities. Otherwise, they fit the culture, the value, but I am not providing back to them what they brought to my practice. So it's a fair exchange is key. Second, aligning the mission, the purpose of what you're creating with the mission and the purpose of that particular person. Some people come because they come to work in an organization because they want safety.
Right.
If for me, my group practice, if you just want safety, that doesn't work, because I'm always going to challenge you to go to the next level. I'm always bringing the next challenge. So knowing that and knowing why people are coming, what is their reasoning, what is the purpose, will I need that? And so therefore you hire people that are so aligned that we can create something together. And the other piece is you have to know yourself. Like, for example, I am someone who always rebalance people. So if you're lean towards the negative, I'll bring the other perspective. But if you lean too much towards the positive, I'll lean the other perspective. So if I have people who really attach to just one particular way of being, it's not going to work. It's just not
Right.
going to work. So knowing that refines even more my hiring process. So it's all about, what do I want to create? Who am I? And will I be able to offer all of this to this person so that they can grow? And if you have that, then people are on board because they're on board with your mission. You provide to them something that keeps them growing in their why, what, how, as you say. And so that's where we are. And to be fair, I want to tell people, if people fall out of your organization or you have to let go of people, sometimes it's a sign that you have evolved and that it's
Mhm.
time to let go. It's not a sign of failure if people leave. It's not a sign that something went wrong. The key is not to keep people working with you. The key is to have a mutual benefit. As
Mm.
long as there's a mutual benefit, then people will stay. But they might come a point where there's no longer a mutual benefit.
Right.
And it's beyond what you can provide. It's
Yeah.
really about personal journey.
It's where you are in your growth stages. You said a couple of things that, Dr. Yasmine, we're just going to have you back for a third appearance because I have more questions for you, and I promise to not keep you too long. But here's the thing: you mentioned you know who you want to bring in based on the environment that you've created, and it comes from that deep self awareness that you have about yourself. You know the people that you want in your environment, and you talk about so beautifully. You're bringing them into an environment where you're going to interact with them on a daily basis. uh, they better line up, and if they don't have to be exactly like you, but they have to be able to understand that we're always going to be making sense of things, looking for better ways and looking to contribute. And if that resonates with you, how are you going to resonate? How are you going to contribute to that? The other part I mentioned earlier, sometimes our diamonds come to us as a lump of coal. And as my daughter, my 14-year-old said the other day, because she had a cross country meet, and I was telling her about, okay, this is kind of what I was coaching her, and my wife says, don't put so much pressure on her, and my daughter turns to her and says, Mom, pressure makes diamonds. And that's what you do, right? You put them in situations where they're going to feel a little bit of pressure, but it's going to make them better. It's going to make them shine. And you turn your team into a bunch of diamonds, and then you have a well-functioning, well-oiled machine that is churning out and doing great work for patients in your practice, and also a great place to work.
Yes. And if I can give your daughter's example, like, you also want to see where they are in your journey, because, like, so you had the idea that pressure, builds diamond. Your wife had a different idea, but your daughter was the one who said, no, I'm ready for this. So
Mm.
it's almost like you can see the diamond in the rough, but sometimes people don't want to be polished. And it's about respecting that they don't want to be polished. And others,
Mhm.
they're ready and hungry. And so it's about also figuring out, where are they in that stage? And if they are in that stage, then they're good for you.
Yeah, no, I remember when I was in corporate, watching people get pressured into leadership positions that they weren't ready for, right? They may have been outstanding, they may have had outstanding traits, but just because they're a great performer does not mean they're going to be a great leader, especially if we bully them into that position where that's not really what they wanted. So they have to be ready. And like, I love what you said. Sometimes they're not ready to be polished, or they may need more polish before we put them out on the showroom. So that is a fantastic analogy. I could go on for another hour, but I know you've got things going on. Dr. Yasmine, it has been such a pleasure to have you back on the Lead Different podcast, and we're going to invite you back because I have some other questions that I want to ask you. But we always end the show with the question, and that I'm gonna give you the answer. The answer is why not? Okay, so what do you say we end the show on that note?
Why not?
Thank you so much, Dr. Yasmine. Guys, thank you so much for sticking around and watching this amazing interview. Dr. Yasmine, thank you for sharing your wisdom. And just, it's always a pleasure to talk to you. If you enjoyed the show, please don't forget to make a comment. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. And don't forget to let your friends know. Sign up. We are growing every single week with subscribers. So make sure you subscribe to the channel and let everybody know about the Lead Different podcast where every week we have leaders that, like Dr. Yasmine, talk about their secrets to successful leadership and how to lead different. So thank you very much, Dr. Yasmine. Thank you much, everyone, for listening. And we'll see you next week on the Lead Different podcast. Have a great week.
And Dan, I want to thank you for creating this space, asking the best question, and helping people grow. So thank you for your mission, passion, and purpose.
Thank you so much for your support, Dr. Yasmine. I look forward to staying in touch, and I will see you soon.
Sounds great.